Hello and welcome back to the Digital Marketing Podcast. My name is Kieran Rogers.
I'm Louise Crossley.
And I'm Daniel Rolls.
And today we are talking about social algorithms.
So these social algorithms are basically the sets of rules that sit behind each of the different social media platforms and decide what you see and what you don't see, and how much visibility your content gets. It's an interesting conversation because these things are changing all the time. But Twitter came out and there was lots of discussion about what was in the algorithm. And Elon Musk said, well, look, I'll give you complete transparency. Here is our algorithm. And he put this diagram out. Okay? And he went, oh, that's amazing. And then he started looking at it going, I can't. Oh, no, okay. So you could get a lot of insight. But they had all these like 3 and 4 letter acronyms for different bits of the algorithm.
Just more acronyms.
Yeah, and then it was like heterogeneous information networks where nodes represent domain entities, and you start, your mind starts boggling a little bit.
HIN.
Yeah, exactly.
My new favourite 3-letter acronym. I'm going to try and work it
Until the
into
next
conversation casually with my mum and see if she notices.
Yeah, you're going to talk about nodes representing domain entities.
Yeah.
A domain entity, by the way, is like a user or content advertiser. Edges represent one of many entity interactions, i.e. user sharing content or following it. Interactions from multiple relation types can encode valuable information about social network entities not fully captured by a single relation. Now, what that means is that if I'm connected to you... Am I keeping you awake, Kieran? Basically, if I'm connected to you and I'm connected to you and you're all doing something, that thing will be connected to me to some extent, right?
Yeah.
So it's about those things, and things don't always come out immediately. Just because I connect to 10 people, if those 10 people have got something in common, that could then be related to me and so on. So actually, the more you drill into it, the greater the level of detail you can get into. But then someone did this great little, there's a guy called Peter Yang, and he just did a little post that said, actually, do you want the 101 on the algorithm then? Right. This is what you need to boost things. Likes, 30x, 30 times. That was the amazing thing out. Likes are more important than retweets in Twitter, or they were at least at the point of this coming out as well. So I thought that was really interesting. Retweets, about 20x. Twitter Blue, paying for your kind of tick, 2 to 4x. Trusted Circle, so that content's within that trusted group of people, 3x. Images and videos, 2x. Replies, 1x. Wow, that's fascinating, because I would have always said otherwise. You need more replies and more retweets. That's got to be better than a like.
Replies are considerably low, considering it's taking a lot of effort to engage.
Right? That's what I thought. So my point of this is sometimes the algorithms are different for each channel, and this is their interpretation of it. This might not be true at all, by the way. Negatives, URL only. You just put a link in it, put anything else in. No text. Yeah. You've been muted, obviously you've been blocked, you've been unfollowed, and you've been reported. Yeah, well, I would imagine those things were fairly negative. So, again, the more we get into these algorithms, there are things that will help you a bit. But you kind of always come back to the same thing I say in almost every episode, which is, if you focus on doing great content, it's going to be great. The reality, though, is about your network and engagement, those things. And I'll give you a lovely example of this. I have, 8,500 followers in Twitter, and we were really active in Twitter earlier on. So I've got this big following, and then a lot of those people using Twitter have fallen off over the years. So I reckon there's a good 30% of my Twitter followers that don't really exist anymore. That is messing with the algorithm massively, because I'll post something and a lot of those people don't engage at all because they're just not using Twitter. So that historical context can damage you as well from that point of view. The type of content you post has a huge impact on that, which we'll kind of get onto in just a moment as well. So we need to understand what's important. So, for example, focus on likes, then retweets, then replies. Post within your cluster. And what I mean by that is that if you're discussing amongst a particular group that are going to engage and so on, that's going to do really well. So I know, for example, whenever I post anything about Jersey, my Jersey cluster all engage and respond to those kind of things, and that gets loads of engagement, and that becomes more visible. Whereas if I go, here's a great link, it's like tumbleweed sometimes, because it isn't relevant to some of my clusters. They ignore it. Some of those people are inactive. So you've got to try and do that. Twitter cards perform better than non-Twitter card formats. Yeah, we kind of know that. They're much more visual. They lay out really nicely.
With ads.
Yeah, of course.
If you're boosting it, seems to make a big difference.
Yeah, images and videos are really important as well. Worth paying for Blue. We're testing this at the moment. I haven't been able to statistically prove it, but the reason I paid for Blue is I was writing something and I'd spent a bit of time writing it. I was on a train. I was in the UK at the time, I think. And I suddenly realised that there was a typo, and I really couldn't be bothered to type the whole thing out again because you can't edit tweets. So I just paid for it just so I could edit tweets. So, and now there's a really nice thing that you get that when you post something, and I don't know if this is just Blue or this is other accounts, you post something, it gives you a little countdown timer. And it's like cool-off period. So I'm like, there's this thing ranting about it, getting really annoyed, and then posting my tweet and thinking, oh, I really shouldn't have written that, and delete it. It gives you a little countdown now, so you can a cool-off period.
You might regret this.
Yeah, exactly. I quite like that. I thought it was quite nice. Avoid including links in your tweets. I'm not saying this is general advice, but this is algorithm advice in that Twitter want you to stay on their platform. And if you're driving them away from the platform, they don't particularly like it, which is why me just sharing links to its content on our website doesn't always do particularly well from that point of view
Or
as well.
create it as a Twitter card. Even if it's an organic tweet, it's worth doing.
Exactly that. And it's a bit of extra effort, but it's definitely worth kind of doing as well. Typos can have a negative impact and so on as well. So that's Twitter. I think we need to talk about content formats, but I think the cards thing's really, really important as well. LinkedIn to me is incredible at the moment. Comments is where it's at. Okay. So if you post LinkedIn stuff and it gets comments, it will get loads more visibility. So I'll give you an example. I just shared a piece of Target Internet content and just reshared it. Visibility, 300 people impressions it got in front of, hardly any. I then posted a video, but I actually uploaded the video. So it was content within LinkedIn, not posting somewhere else. That got 5,000 impressions. Okay, but quite a bit of effort creating a video, uploading it, and so on. Third one, I asked a question. And the question was, what advice would you give to someone starting their career, one tactical, one strategic piece of advice? 10,000 impressions. Because it got loads of comments, it got loads of replies, it got loads of visibility.
Do you think that's because the algorithm's looking at everybody that's commenting and sharing the post with the people that they're connected with? Yeah, and that's it. And it amplifies it, right? Now, actually, if you think about that from a content point of view, if I'd posted a video and asked a question, that might have been a bit of a sweet spot from that point of view. But I know if I'm going through LinkedIn, think about real behaviour. If I see a video, I might be bothered to watch it, I might not. If I see a question, it's a bit more immediate. So really, going back to Twitter, I know if I just go, here's Target Internet stuff, here's Target Internet stuff, it's lazy. And Twitter's better for conversation. And if I follow the conversation stuff, it gets more engagement because that's what people want, and then that ticks all the boxes as well. Important distinction to make here, right? So when people comment, they are. We've spoken in previous episode about like personal brand. They're actually adding to their own personal brand.
Yes, they are.
Right.
Yeah.
And this is the interesting thing. So actually, like we found this at Target Internet. Like when we were running all those experiments to work out like how do we get more traction and what would work and what wouldn't work, very much the sort of content that got lots of shares and lots of comments was stuff that we had that phrase, didn't we? That I am the smartest marketer in the room. Right, that's what all digital marketers aspire to be.
Right.
And what we found was that very much when we shared content that they could use to demonstrate how smart they were, they shared it.
Yeah.
They shared it. And I think you've got a similar thing there. It wasn't just the
100%.
question that was supercharged because actually you were asking, let me demonstrate my knowledge. And then it got a little bit like sometimes joke telling down the pub does. You know, where someone tells a joke and then someone else has to tell a funnier joke, and then actually there's a bit of competition going on within there. And actually, this fascinates me because this is the real sweet spot. Is actually when you hack into the human algorithm, when you hack into everything, so things that people just can't resist. We're like moths drawn to a flame with stuff like that.
Well, that's why the clickbait stuff and everything else, it gets shared, it gets liked.
Well,
all those kind of
but
things.
This is much more because actually you're giving me an opportunity to share freely of myself, right? And what's everybody's favourite subject? Me. Right. Me. Not Kieran Rogers, definitely not. Unless you are Kieran Rogers, exactly. And then it's definitely your favourite subject.
But also, if I say something like, what charity do you donate to the most? Oh, people are going to love that. What's your favourite charity to support?
We'll get seen by everyone that they're connected to.
That's it.
Well, you see, years ago, I went to this really interesting presentation. It was some random conference, but it was really good. And I'll tell you how old it was. The guy was talking about MySpace, right? And it's specifically talking about MySpace. You know, you had like the equivalent of the wall, didn't you? And he said, what's really interesting is the MySpace wall at the time was being used very much like, and then he said something brilliant, your teenage bedroom wall, right? So when you're a teenager, did you or did you not carefully curate everything that went up onto your wall?
Yeah.
Like
And no one else saw it, or hardly anyone, but it was really important, right? And this is actually, as a youngster, you're experimenting with who you are. You're experimenting with your own personal brand. And it's interesting.
Well, it's like the clothes that you wear.
The clothes that you wear as well, but actually it's all extended onto the bedroom wall and the bands and the sports thing. And interestingly, between the ages of like 11 and 13, radically different wall to when you're like 16 to 17. Like, yeah, I mean, it just is. And actually think back and it's kind of like, oh, I think people use social media like this.
Yep.
And it's totally down to, actually, Louise, when I don't post, but if I was going to post, I would cherry pick, without even thinking about it, I'd cherry pick things that help say something about me that I wanted to say, right? So, somebody like Greenpeace share something amazing about saving pandas or saving the whales or saving the oceans. I share that partly because I applaud what they do, but also partly because I want you to know that I'm,
It's a reflection on yourself.
Yeah, like rabid tree hugger, world lover, love the oceans and the whales and just love it all.
So I'll give you an example. That I'm a judge for the Chartered Institute of Marketing Excellence Awards.
I saw this. It's a big picture of you with I am a judge. Yeah. And what I wanted to do was draw a little woolly wig.
Yeah, right.
And give you a hammer.
A hammer, nice. Yeah. So the other people are applying Judge Dredd pictures and all this kind of stuff. But the problem is they've given all the judges these things. They know the judges have quite big social followings. Yeah. And it's a picture of me going, look how grand I am. And I can share this to everyone. And I thought more people were going to take the mickey out of this one, and they haven't as well. But then if I look for my Instagram profile, there's that one. The next one is...
Is that an invite?
Yeah, feel free, actually. I don't mind.
Right, Louise.
I don't mind.
10 minutes time.
Then you go through to the next one. The next picture is me saying, this is the group, this is the cohort I've just finished with because I'm running the digital transformation program at Imperial College. The next one, this is me in the House of Commons.
Yeah.
And it's just me showing off,
me,
right?
Me. But you're not alone. Everybody does this.
And then there's a picture of me doing a T-shape.
Yeah.
In front of a group of graduates and saying, I'm teaching my students to be T-shaped problem solvers. God, the more I look at my profile, the more awful it is, right? There is a picture of Walter the puppy. That's quite nice.
Yeah.
There is a picture of Louise throwing her hat in there when she graduated. That's quite good as well. But again, that's just again, look at the people I've helped graduate.
Is she T-shaped?
She's not yet. She's kind of like this. You won't be able to see this well on the podcast. But yeah. So it is, and we need to be honest with ourselves about this and, realise that's what we're doing. But if you can appeal for that for people, and it doesn't need to be a negative thing. If you want to help people show their knowledge in a particular area, if you want to help people show that they are supporting a good cause, there's nothing wrong with that from that point of view. As long as we're aware of it and thinking about it, and we can use it to our advantage, we can use it to project ourselves. And projecting yourself as a good person is not a bad thing as long as you are a good person.
Yeah, but it brings in some added colours, doesn't it? Like, actually, I think everybody could take a step back from what they've been posting on LinkedIn and go, do you know what? Let's give a little bit more realism. Let's make this a little bit more well-rounded. Because actually, I think left to our own devices, that's not what we do. Like left to our own devices, when you look at what actually makes it through the filter in the context of just those things, it's kind of not.
Well, important subject in mental health, right? No one wants to say, I'm struggling, I find this difficult, this is, I'm having a really bad time at the moment, I just don't have any energy to do anything, so whatever. You're not going to put that on LinkedIn. But actually, when people do, other people go, yeah, do you know what, I've been feeling like that as well. And I think that's what we've got to be aware of, is that this is the Instagram thing. Look at my perfect body, look at my perfect meal, look at my perfect food. And then everyone else looks and goes, oh, my life isn't like that. So that's something as marketers we need to be really responsible for and take ownership of that a little bit as well.
I should just take to social media and share more of me, because it wouldn't be like this is me being a very noisy and messy eater. And here's some beautiful food that I eat. Yeah.
I've eaten with you a lot. So look, I think that's it. And I think working out, I think your thing about human algorithm is brilliant. Yes, these algorithms are important, but actually work out what's in it, what people want. And that's
that's where it gets a little bit smart, because I love the fact that you've just taken an objective look of what you have posted and gone, actually, I don't, in context altogether, I don't like it that much. Like it's missing some things. And actually, I can see you recognising, actually, I need more of Walter, I need more of some of these other things.
Well, I don't. This is the thing, right? This is what I always say about this, is that my Instagram reflects me in a professional context. It's not supposed to be me. Right, it's me in a professional context.
And it's not supposed to be the brand either.
No, and it's lots of videos in the podcast of me just laughing at stuff you guys are saying, or just saying something stupid and so on as well. So there's a bit of that. But the reality is that it is reflecting me in a context, and it's the stuff that I'm proud of. right? And I am genuinely, I loved speaking at the House of Commons. I thought it was the most exciting thing. I love it when we get a new book through. I love teaching students, all that kind of stuff. So it does kind of reflect me, but it is one view of me, I think, is the important thing.
It's edited.
Yeah, completely. It's curated.
Yeah.
And
and we're thankful for that. We don't want pictures of you on the loo.
No, you
It's
don't.
also-
never do.
Really
It's the stuff that people that follow you want to see.
Yeah,
so there's a
potentially.
reason that it gets good engagement.
Yeah, but I think there's that thing of actually you can take it too far, right? So there's the whole, this is how I made my first million, and this is how we made the next 10 million, and this is and this is how you could be a winner like me, and it's like, we've suddenly gone into a completely different place from that point of view as well. So I think a lot of people like that. They like an inspirational figure as well. I've got no problem with that as well. So the Sam Parr's got how I made my first million. That's actually great, but I think you've got to be very aware of it. The problem is the algorithms reward some of these negative behaviours as well. If you post something extreme, it will get more engagement, and therefore it rewards it.
Like controversial stuff. Always does
Exactly.
particularly well.
Clickbaity stuff, controversial stuff, or nudity, anything like that is going to get engagement, and therefore it amplifies it and kind of encourages everyone else to do it. Facebook algorithm. Interesting thing about this, it says you're more likely to see content from sources you interact with regularly, friends or businesses. Type of content, if you interact with video more, you see more video. If you interact with images more, you see more images. So they're adjusting that from that point of view. The thing is, with Facebook, demographically, it's just fallen off a cliff in the younger demographic. We talked to you. Have you got a Facebook profile even?
I have a Facebook profile, but I mean, if I go on it, I don't interact anyway.
Okay, fine.
So I'm very young and I don't use it.
You don't use it either as well. That's it, right? So you young people, I'm learning from you. It's brilliant. It's good to learn from you youngsters. So I think there's a whole thing is about who you're interacting with and so on as well. But I
mean, organic reach on Facebook is
just awful, awful now. And I've been kicking this can down the road for a long time. So we've got a page for the Digital Marketing Podcast, 24,000 odd likes on it. Actually works pretty well in India still, works well in Egypt. A few places where people want low-cost educational stuff, then you still get quite a bit of traction in some of these places as well. But it's very... You're feeding through content rather than it being a two-way interaction. Doesn't feel very social from that point of view as well. So that's not kind of great. YouTube, interesting. Loads of stats within the algorithm there. But the two things are important: retention, how long people are listening for, and we've just identified we're damaging ourselves with this. We relaunched our YouTube channel. We started paying for visibility, so we started putting a few £100s a month into just promoting our videos. Now, by nature of you clicking on a promoted video, you're less likely to watch it for a long period of time because you haven't actively searched for it. You're kind of browsing. Our average view time went down and our visibility organically has not increased. So it's damaged us, which is interesting. You're paying for it and it's doing you damage. So we're canning that, taking a slightly different approach. So retention is important, and velocity. If your average video gets 5 views in the first day and you suddenly gets 10 views in the first day, YouTube's going to sit up and take notice of that.
And that's a good argument for doing every piece of content like a product launch.
Yeah,
It'll come out all guns blazing, and you want all the support for it. And that's, I suppose, really we don't kind of coordinate our content like that. But if we did, it would.
Yeah, I mean, I think we do. I think what we're guilty of is we do so much. So we have a podcast every week, a video every week. We have excerpts. We have an article. There's so much going on. We don't have the resource to put it into doing that as well. But when we start to test out, and I always say to people, do less, do it better. Is that there's an argument for actually kind of deeper diving in some of those things. So it's worth looking at that. Instagram, I thought what was interesting is that Instagram have reacted to the feedback about, it's just become like another place for videos. And actually they're trying to make photos a bit more visible again as well. Reels are still really important. So we're kind of looking at that. Video is still king. It's still getting better engagement than anything else as well. Hashtags still make a difference, but quality over quantity for that point of view. So,
I mean, Instagram's still one of those where, as a user, you go on, you ultimately want to see pictures of your friends and you never see what you want to see. They tried to combat people saying that by adding a new tab. So you have to switch your tab to your following tab.
Yep.
And then that's where you see all of your friends' content. But again, it just doesn't...
That's it. And
it's another place to look, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you?
No.
Right.
And your poor friend.
Right, that's it. Right.
Trying so hard. You're just ignoring them.
And then TikTok's interesting because TikTok, there was this big thing about the red button. So what was happening is that TikTok's got an algorithm just like everything else, and engagement and everything else. But there is also the team at TikTok have a button to boost stuff. So if they go, this stuff's really relevant, they hit the button and it will suddenly just go absolutely viral from that point. There's manual interventions happening.
They have that at LinkedIn as well. If you hit a certain level. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And I think it's just this thing of like, there are manual interventions probably in most of these platforms. And we won't have visibility on all these kind of things. But if you're creating stuff that is getting engagement, is getting shares, it will have an impact. It's worth adjusting for your particular platform that's relevant to you. But I think there's two elements to this. Is one, stay on top of this. Do what is effective. So help yourself out, because we've all got limited time. But also go back to Kieran's point about think about the human algorithm. What do people want? And if you start with people, that's what really has the big impact as well. We'll put a load of links into all these stats into the show notes, targetinternet.com/podcast. And you can go and take a look at all of those. And don't forget, we have got the awards for our toolkit. Okay, so the Digital Marketing Toolkit Awards going on at the moment. You can nominate your tools. You can go and vote for those things as well. So targetinternet.com/awards. When does voting open?
It's open now.
Okay.
It opened on the 23rd of June and it's open until the 17th of July.
17th of July, brilliant.
I have to say, I'm loving some of the nominations already. Okay. So much fun playing with those.
Yeah, and there's some really good tools in there as well. So we will show, if it's been nominated, it will be in a list. So you'll be able to access all those kind of things. So go in and take a look at that, and we'll be posting that out across social media as well. And as ever, thank you for listening to the Digital Marketing Podcast.
Please subscribe for more videos like this and visit targetinternet.com for more free digital marketing resources.